Hey guys, it's Lego with Lego Vids. Today we're going to be going over the different skills and abilities that are available to the monk in the Diablo 3 beta. My monk is level 13, so I'll be able to show you all of the skills and abilities available to a level 13 monk in the beta. This is during patch 14, which is the patch that Blizzard says they plan on releasing as the game. So this should be pretty close to what actually releases with the game. So let's go ahead. I'm going to break these down into 4 different categories. The first category is going to be spirit generators. Each ability in this category is going to generate 6 spirit per attack, which is the main resource of a monk. And so there are going to be 3 abilities in this category. The next category is a category that I've kind of made up. I call DPS spenders, and it's the different abilities that are available to you that you can spend your spirit on that are kind of more DPS centric kind of abilities. There are 4 in that category. Next we have utility spenders, which are things that you can spend your spirit on that are more utility, so they may give you mobility or some kind of defensive or your heals, that kind of thing would fall into the utility role. And then finally you have your passives, which are just the abilities that you get that are just always on. There's passive abilities. So let's go ahead and get started with the spirit generators. First up, we have a skill that you get at level 1. You start with this, and it's called Fist of Thunder. Again, generates 6 spirit per attack. And the spirit generators are a series of 3 attacks if you choose to go out 3. And most of them will do something special on the 3rd attack. Some of them will do something special on the 2nd, but they kind of vary a little bit from attack 1, 2 to 3. So this particular attack unleash a series of extremely fast punches that deal 110% weapon damage as lightning. Every 3rd hit deals damage to all enemies in front of you and knocks them back a short distance. Spirit generators generate spirit faster than other spirit generating skills due to high attack speed. This particular generator does attack a little bit faster than your other generators and your other abilities. So this is what it looks like. And so let's go ahead and jump, and I'll show you what it looks like in combat. It's an okay ability, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. Next up, we have a runed effect for Fist of Thunder. The first rune effect that you'll get this at level 6. It's called Bounding Light. Every 3rd punch releases chain lightning instead of knocking enemies back. Each lightning strike inflicts 73% weapon damage as lightning. This can actually jump pretty far, so it can be a neat ability. So it changes the animation just a little bit as far as color goes. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like in combat. Next up, we have Deadly Reach, and Deadly Reach is available to you at level 3. Again, it's another generator. Generates 6 spirit per attack. Project lines of pure force over a short distance for 110% weapon damage. Every 3rd hit extends 25 yards. This is kind of a neat ability. As you can see, it reaches pretty far out, and it can be good in combat, especially if you need to keep enemies away from you and still be able to damage them. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what it's like in combat. Next, we have a rune effect for Deadly Reach, and the rune effect is called Piercing Trident. It increases the area of effect of the 2nd and 3rd strikes. So it still does 110% weapon damage, and it still reaches pretty far. So it actually, the 2nd strike is 2 beams, the 3rd strike is 3. So it's really nice ability. Let's go ahead and take a look at it, see how it is in combat. Next up, we have the last spirit generator that's available to us in the beta. It's called Crippling Wave. It is available at level 11. Again, 6 spirit per attack. Unleash a series of large sweeping attacks that cause 110% weapon damage to all enemies in front of you. Every third hit damages all enemies around you and dazes them, slowing their movement speed by 30% and attack speed by 20% for 3 seconds. This is my favorite spirit generator that's available in the beta. The AoE nature of it is absolutely amazing. So let's go ahead and take a look at this in combat. Okay, next up we have the first of our DPS spenders, and that is going to be Lashing Tail Kick. You learn this at level 2. It costs 30 spirit. Unleash a deadly roundhouse kick that knocks enemies back and deals 200% weapon damage. So just as a reminder, you start out with just 150 spirit, and I believe the only way to increase this is through gear later on. There might be a few passives I haven't noticed, but so 150%. So let's check this out. Lashing Tail Kick is a cone effect in front of you, and it actually has quite a large knockback effect. So let's see what this looks like in combat. Next up we have the first rune ability of Lashing Tail Kick. It's called Vulture Claw Kick. That rune is going to be available at level 7. Release a torrent of fire that burns nearby enemies for 220% weapon damage as fire and causes knockback. So a slight DPS increase here with this, and it's going to change the ability to be a 360 degree AoE instead of just that cone effect. Let's take a look in combat. Next up, we have an ability called Tempest Rush. This is going to be available at level 5. Costs 15 spirit plus an additional 10 spirit while channeling. Charge directly through your enemies, knocking them back and hobbling them, slowing their movement speed by 60% for 2 seconds. Also deals 50% weapon damage while running. This is kind of a neat ability. It does shove anything in your way out of the way, so it might be good for an escape. Or, you know, you might just enjoy the mechanic of being able to run through enemies. We also have a rune available to us at this level, and it's going to be available at level 11. It's called Northern Breeze, and it reduces the channeling cost to 8 spirit instead of 10, and it does change the graphic a little bit, so instead of a green, it's a yellow. So let's go see what this is like in combat. You'll get to see guys get pushed around. Kind of neat.
Not enough spirit.
Next we have Wave of Light. It costs 100 spirit. Focuses a wave of light that crushes enemies for 150% weapon damage as holy, followed by an additional 150% weapon damage as holy to all enemies in a line. This particular ability has a pretty large graphic, so I'm going to stay zoomed out for this. Functionally, I don't really care for this ability too much because I think it costs a ton. It doesn't necessarily give you the right amount of return, dealing only 150%. It does do the extra 150 afterwards, but I just haven't found it that useful yet. So again, Wave of Light, let's go ahead and take a look. Let's see it in combat.
Your claws are revealed.
Next up is the last DPS spender we have access to in the beta, and it's called Exploding Palm. You get this at level 13. It costs 40 spirit, causes the target to bleed for 220% weapon damage as physical over 3 seconds. If the target dies while bleeding, it explodes and deals 30% of the target's maximum life as physical damage to all nearby enemies. This is kind of a neat ability and can work out fairly well for AoE. Even the damage on it for single target's not too bad if you let that 3 seconds of it tick over. It is 220% weapon damage, and it does only cost 40 spirit. It's primarily going to be for the AoE aspect. So, as you can see, it just makes this ball effect here. If we check it out in combat, you'll actually be able to see the explosions that they can trigger, and that can actually be pretty strong because it's based on the enemy's health. Just one more note to make about this. If you've watched previous videos or been reading up, Exploding Palm used to actually be a spirit generator, but in patch 14 they changed it to be a spirit spender. And so if you're thinking I thought this was a generator, you're correct. It was a generator, but now it does it's a spirit spender, and I think it'll be more useful as a spender. So let's go ahead and see what this is like in combat.
I don't have enough spirit.
Next up we have the first of our utility spenders. It's called Blinding Flash. You learn this at level 4. Costs just 10 spirit, cooldown of 15 seconds. Create a flash of light that blinds all enemies within 20 yards for 3 seconds. Elite enemies recover faster but suffer a 30% chance to miss with attacks. It has a pretty good size graphic. As you can see, it has a ruined effect as well, which is going to increase the duration from 3 seconds to 4 seconds, and so functionally it doesn't change a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and show you those together in the combat clip. Just to also note, the graphic does slightly change. Here you go. See if you can even notice the difference. Very, very slight. But this does say blind. But this blind is more like a stun because you can actually hit enemies when they're in this blinded state and they won't snap out of it. So it ends up being a really strong crowd control, especially considering it's AoE. I'm sure it's going to save my life a ton of times when I get into Inferno and even into Hell and Nightmare. So you guys would be wise not to leave this out of your build once the enemies start getting tough. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Our next utility spender is called Breath of Heaven. We learn this at level 8. Costs 25 spirit, 15 second cooldown. A blast of divine energy heals you and all allies within 12 yards for 186 to 223 life. This 186 to 223 life, it does scale. I know it definitely scales on your level. I'm not sure if it scales on other things like dex or whatever, but definitely scales with you as you level up. Give you a kind of perspective, 223 versus my life pool 718. I do have pretty decent gear right now. I have quite a bit of vitality gear on, so that does gives you an idea of how much it'll heal for. So let's go check the graphic here. Now let's see what it does in combat. Next up, we have the last of our utility spenders available to us in the beta. It's called Dashing Strike. You learn this at level 9. Costs 25 spirit. Quickly dash to the targeted enemy or location, striking for 100% weapon damage and rooting the target for 1 second. this ability is really great at being able to catch a guy that's in the back of the pack, because you can dash through everything as long as you have him targeted. It'll jump all the way over to him, so it's kind of a really good mobility spell. I can't demo it too well right here. It looks like it's pretty short range, but it will actually dash to whatever you happen to have targeted, whether it's a actual enemy or breakable object. It'll jump all the way over to that location, so it's a pretty strong ability as far as mobility goes. So let's see this in action.
Must destroy the Skeleton King.
Then our aims of the cultists dragging past this glowing pit. What made it?
I've come here to find out.
Down this way. They're on my way. He's free!
Not enough spirit.
Finally, we have the 3 passes that are available to the monk in the beta. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. The first passive that we have is called Fleet-Footed. Increases movement speed by 10%. That's great for just being able to get from A to B fast, as far as being able to move from mob to mob. I'm not sure how easy it'll be to equip compared to the other passes that we'll have available later on. You know, I guess you just have to balance out, is 10% movement speed really worth it to you? Some people love it, some people are like, I don't care, so you have to see how it is later on in the game. Next up we have Resolve. You get this at level 10. You actually get Fleet-Footed and Resolve both at level 10. So Resolve, damage you deal reduces enemy damage by 25% for 2.5 seconds. So as long as you're damaging the enemy attacking you, it will be doing 25% less damage back to you and anyone around you. So pretty strong one as far as being defensive. Next up we have the Guardian's Path. You gain access to this at level 13. While dual wielding, you gain a 15% chance to dodge incoming attacks. While using a two-handed weapon, all spirit generation is increased by 25%. So the dual wielding passive is fantastic. 15% dodge is a really good passive as far as being defensive. And the extra spirit generation for two-handed weapon, that's probably going to be pretty good to have if you're going to be using a two-hander, because the two-handers are fairly slow, and so you're going to want that extra spirit generation. So good passive to have if you're dual wielding or if you're using a two-hander. So a lot of people will probably be running with this. So that's it, guys, as far as the different skills and abilities available to us in the beta. Again, the level cap is 13, and so these are the different skills and abilities that you'll have access to up to level 13 in the beta on a monk. Again, this is patch 14, and this is the patch that should be released with the game. They may do some minor tweaks between now and then, but the game's not too far off, and this should be really close to what's actually released. If you guys have any more questions about the monk or any other gameplay features with the Diablo 3, then just leave a comment, let me know. If you like this video, leave a comment, let me know if there's another class that you would like to see this video on. If so, then maybe I can move it to the top of the list. Hopefully I'll get all 5 classes done before the beta is released. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you all later.